Alright, you frickin' fricks. I tried to avoid this story for so long, but it keeps coming up. Let's talk about it. No matter what I do, I can't escape the same news story coming up all over the place. At first, I just chalked it up to normal internet outrage, kind of like I'm doing right now, but I tried to ignore it, I tried to put it off, and it just kept coming up. That good Batman movie said you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. In the late 2000s, Steam, owned by Valve, became its own platform for releasing Valve first-party games, and eventually they started including other games as well. It wasn't a couple years later, Steam dominated the PC market. If you weren't on Steam, you weren't really real. Steam began including more and more features, and people generally liked it. Everybody was on it, everybody used it. When there was a Steam sale for holidays or other events, everybody flocked to Steam and it had really good deals. One of the most innovative things they did was their pricing model, which is once a game became old, they had no problem dropping the price down extremely low. At the time, Valve was a really respected company, having such big names as Half-Life, Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress 2. Everybody was happy, everybody was using Steam, and every time someone tried to make a competitor to Steam, it fell by the wayside and was generally ignored. Because back then, everybody looked really positively on Steam. They loved what they were doing, they thought they were doing a great job, people trusted a company, which is weird. Steam started to become a monopoly. None of the other clients were taking off in a way that mattered. Windows even tried to release their own game store, and it just completely flopped because nobody switched off using Steam. People just really loved Gabe Newell, the founder of Steam, and his weird knife collection. But as Batman stated in that movie, eventually it became the villain because it had a monopoly. It got a little lackadaisical on some of its features. It would try to add new things with a half-hearted, not very thought-out plan, and then would immediately pull features, and then things would change, and people didn't like the changes. Then there were too many games on Steam, so they tried to make less games on Steam. They tried to make barriers of entry, and then people complained about the barriers of entry because indie people couldn't afford to get on Steam, so then they opened up the floodgates, and then there were too many games on Steam, gone back and forth on whether or not to allow porn games on Steam, which we've now reached a point which is like, if you don't check the box that says I don't want to see the porn stuff on Steam, it's just anime everywhere. Anime boobs everywhere. I'm pretty sure I saw some statistic that like just a ridiculous percentage of all the games on Steam now are just anime boobs. So yeah, Steam stuck around long enough to become the villain. So what did the people want? They wanted a competitor. But none of the other launchers had really succeeded to any degree up to this point. But then came a gaming phenomenon no one really expected, which of course is Fortnite. I don't know if you can see I'm flossing. Fortnite was created by a company called Epic Games, who for some time at that point had their own launcher, but it really wasn't something that people took seriously. But hey, Fortnite came along and you had to take Epic seriously. It was at this point they decided they wanted to get into the launcher game. Starting out last year, they started out extremely strong. They had a select number, a few games only, that they decided to make exclusive by giving some money to the developers, and they brought it to their system, the Epic Games Store, and they even started a program where they would start giving out some old games they were picking up for free to anybody that just had an account. All you had to do was get an account, download the Epic Games Launcher, and they were giving out new games like every 2 weeks. This became a little bit of a disruption in the force that caused people to go, we don't particularly like Steam, and this seems to be doing something. What Epic did next was brilliant on their part. In a world where games are becoming more expensive to make, and where all kinds of stories are popping up about bad developmental work conditions and people not getting paid enough, Epic decides that they're going to increase the amount of money that the developers get from their own games compared to what has become the industry standard, mostly dictated by Steam. So now you have a new platform with a lot of people that weren't used to playing lots of other games. When Fortnite came, it brought a bunch of new people in. And they were getting free games, and developers were being incentivized to put their games on Epic because they were offering a better split of the profit margins for games sold on Epic. Nobody seemed particularly fazed at that point. You had Epic, this scrappy underdog, which it's hard to believe that anyone would even say that because they owned Fortnite, going against Steam, this monolith that everyone of course had. So you had games essentially saying they were going to come out on both stores, the Steam store and the Epic store. As I mentioned before, the Epic store had a better split, and there were potential new players there that were newer to the video game ecosystem because Fortnite brought in so many people like a magnet. Nobody seemed to have a problem at that point, which makes sense. There were two platforms. One of them was clearly much smaller in some ways because it wasn't selling as many games, but hey, you had to use that client to play Fortnite. And the other client was Steam, the one that everyone was turning against already. It was at this point that the people at Epic decided to play hardball, and they decided to do something called a timed exclusive. For those who don't know, a timed exclusive is where a game releases on one platform for a specific amount of time before it becomes available on all platforms. Now, if you're wondering why someone would do that, why they would sell their game in one store only instead of multiple stores so that they can get revenue coming in from more than one sources, the answer of course is money. It's always about money. In order to get a timed exclusive, a platform holder, in this case Epic, was offering to give these developers extra money to keep the game on their platform only for a specific amount of time before releasing to the other stores. So this was a deal that helped developers get more money. And that is where the outrage begins, and that's what I'm starting to just get sick of seeing. Why is there so much outrage about these timed exclusives? People are bringing things up like, oh, you say you want competition, but then you have these timed exclusives, which means that you're forcing games here. Here's the thing, Steam has the same option to bid for these games. They choose to not offer as good of a split as Epic Games, and they choose to not pay the company for the timed exclusivity. That forces the company to, hey, say, I want more money, I want to be able to pay my developers more, I'm going to go with this option. And this is the thing that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why people continuously get so freaking mad that the game is available in this one spot. And the biggest problem with it is that both of these stores are free clients that just run on your computer. If a game is a timed exclusive on the Epic store, it really doesn't lock anyone out of playing that game. If there's a Walmart on this side of the street and a Target on this side of the street, and this place, the Walmart, sells something and this Target doesn't sell something, is it really that big of a deal to walk over to the Walmart and buy the thing? Let's say you're used to shopping at Target, but you really want the thing from Walmart. We can walk over to Walmart and buy the thing. And if there's better deals here, we can shop at Walmart. And if we would rather go to Target, we can shop at Target. If you really want to buy the thing at Target, it may show up there eventually. But I don't understand this outrage. Right now, we're dealing with a story where the developers are getting harassed for choosing to release a timed exclusive on Steam. And I don't think this is the first time it's going to happen. We've seen outrage every single time a game popped up as a time exclusive on Epic. And I just don't get it. Will somebody explain to me why people are mad about this? And don't give me just some dumb outrage on the internet thing. What is the big deal about downloading this other client and playing the game via that client, getting the game via that store? We want to help developers. We want to get more money to the makers of the games. Let's just buy it at the store that it's at and move on. Like, I feel like this is one of those problems where it's like, and what's the problem? But as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, everywhere we're seeing people pop up with stories about people getting mad about the Epic Games launcher. It doesn't have the features of Steam. Well, guess what? Steam didn't have good features at the beginning anyway. And every time Steam releases a new feature at this point, you get mad about it. I would like to once again reiterate that we're talking about a storefront. You're buying your games at a different store. It's a different application icon at the bottom of your screen that lets you launch the game from your machine the way you want to. It doesn't have your friends list, maybe? But can't you just make your friends over there? Once again, it's not like Epic is this scrappy underdog and they're trying to claw their way against Steam. They own the second biggest game in the world right now, but they seem to be doing something that's helping developers, which is helping the industry, and it brings competition to Steam, that villain that people are forgetting that they hated. Like, they're like, well, what, my game should be available on Steam so I can buy it on Steam. First of all, it will be. It's a timed exclusive. Second of all, they're both free programs. Thirdly, you hated Steam like 6 months ago, a year ago. You hated Steam because it was the villain now. Gabe was sitting too pretty and he was getting fat and lazy and he didn't care about people. And now you have another service come along and try to compete that seems to be helping developers. And you're mad about timed exclusivity. Think about that. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why gamers have a bad rap. Because this is one of the stupidest things I've ever had to think about. I've been trying to make a news segment for this week and there's hardly anything going on except this stupid story about how developers are being harassed for this. The developers made a flippant comment trying to get ahead of some of this bad news, and people took it as the developers attacking people about the stupid outrage about this stupid situation. It's another storefront, another free storefront to buy your games from. I'ma straight up say it, unless someone can prove me wrong, you're just being little babies. I know, I said it, I'm sorry for my language there, but you are, you're being childish and it's really dumb and I don't get it. I don't want to talk about this anymore. If you have some other thoughts that I'm like completely missing the point on this whole thing, please leave a comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hate this video, give me a thumbs down. I don't get it. Just I don't get it. What are your thoughts on the Epic Store? It seems like they're doing some cool stuff. Seems like they're trying to help developers. I don't really have that big of a problem with Steam personally either, except the stupid anime boob thing, but I click the button and I don't have to see it. If you want to see me talk about video games in the future, please subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications. Usually I try to keep it pretty positive and talk about, you know, cool stuff happening in gaming, but this is just ridiculous. Everyone have a good day. Enjoy buying games on the launchers that you want to, unless they're only available on other launchers. And if you're mad about this, quit being a baby.